Welcome back to the Three Koi Fishes channel, your guide through the wonderful and sometimes wacky world of parenthood. I'm your host, Joy, and today we're exploring a parenting style you might find yourself nodding along to: Type C parenting.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sophie. And after raising my two now teenagers, I've definitely seen a range of parenting approaches. Type C is one that's become more talked about, and it's fascinating to explore.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jocelyn, and with my little Leo at home, I'm constantly trying to figure out what approach feels right. I've heard the term Type C, and honestly, it sounds a little like how I'm leaning, but I'm not entirely sure what it all entails.
That's a great starting point, Jocelyn. So, what exactly is Type C parenting? In a nutshell, it's characterized by a more relaxed, go-with-the-flow attitude. Think less strict schedules and more adapting to the moment. Now, it's important to note that Type C isn't a formal, scientifically defined category in the way some other parenting styles are. It's more of a term that's been gaining traction in conversations online and among parents.
Exactly, Joy. You might also hear people talking about something similar called Type B parenting, which emphasizes a less perfectionistic and more flexible approach, prioritizing connection over rigid rules. In many ways, what we're describing as Type C aligns very closely with this idea of Type B.
That's interesting. So it's not like the traditional categories you hear about, like authoritative or permissive.
Right. While there can be some overlap, for example, a Type C parent might share some leniency with a permissive parent. The intention is often different. Type C still involves being involved and responsive, whereas permissive parenting can sometimes lack clear boundaries. You could also see how some aspects of a relaxed Type C style might align with gentle parenting, which prioritizes empathy and understanding, although gentle parenting often involves more explicit communication about boundaries.
And if we were to imagine an opposite, almost like a Type A personality applied to parenting, that might look like a very structured, achievement focused, and perhaps more anxious style, quite different from the relaxed nature of Type C or B.
So, as we explore Type C, keep in mind it's more of a descriptive term for a general approach that values flexibility and a less rigid way of raising kids, and it connects with some other interesting ideas in the parenting landscape.
Type C parents tend to prioritize adapting to their child's individual needs and the specific situation rather than adhering to rigid rules or expectations. They often have a live and let live mentality and are less inclined to micromanage every aspect of their child's life.
So it's less about hitting specific milestones at exact times and more about trusting your child's natural development. That resonates with me. Sometimes I feel pressured by what I read online about when Leo should be doing things.
Exactly, Jocelyn. Type C parents generally trust their child's pace and are less focused on comparing their child to others. They often value fostering independence and allowing their children to learn through experience, even if that means a few bumps along the way. So, let's now talk about the potential benefits. What are some of the advantages of this more relaxed approach, Sophie?
One big one is definitely reduce stress for the parents. Trying to maintain a super strict schedule and micromanage everything can be exhausting. Type C parents often experience less anxiety and pressure. It can also lead to more adaptable and resilient children who are better at going with the flow themselves.
That sounds appealing. I definitely feel stressed sometimes trying to stick to a nap schedule or worry about every little thing Leo touches. Could this approach actually foster more creativity in kids too, by giving them more freedom?
That's a great point. Less rigid structure can allow for more spontaneity and unstructured playtime, which is fantastic for fostering creativity and independent exploration. Plus, it can lead to a really warm and connected parent-child relationship built on flexibility and understanding. Of course, no parenting style is perfect. What are some of the potential downsides or challenges of Type C parenting, Sophie?
The main concern often revolves around boundaries and consistency. If the go with the flow attitude becomes too extreme, children might lack the clear expectations and limits they need for self-regulation. It could potentially lead to difficulties in more structured environments like school later on.
That's what I worry about. I like the idea of being flexible, but I also want Leo to understand rules and boundaries. How do you balance that as a Type C parent? Is it possible?
That's the million-dollar question. It's about finding a balance. Type C doesn't necessarily mean no rules, but rather fewer, more flexible ones that are consistently enforced. It's about prioritizing what truly matters and letting go of the less significant things.
So, if I'm leaning towards Type C, how do I ensure I'm providing enough structure without becoming overly rigid? Are there specific strategies Type C parents use to maintain some level of consistency?
That's a really insightful question, Jocelyn. One strategy is to establish a few non negotiable rules, especially around safety and respect, and then be more flexible with other things. For example, bedtime might have a general time frame, but the pre bedtime routine might be more relaxed.
Exactly. It's also about communicating with your child. Even young children can understand simple explanations for why certain rules exist. And as they get older, involving them in setting some boundaries can foster a sense of ownership and cooperation. The key is mindful flexibility, not just a free-for-all. It's helpful to see Type C in relation to other parenting styles. Sophie, how does it differ from, say, authoritative or permissive parenting?
Authoritative parenting, often seen as very positive, also involves warmth and responsiveness, but typically has clearer and more consistently enforced expectations than a pure Type C approach. Permissive parenting, on the other hand, is also relaxed, but often lacks the boundaries and expectations that even Type C parents generally have. Type C falls somewhere in the spectrum, often leaning more towards flexibility than strictness, but ideally still providing a foundation of guidance.
That makes sense. So, it's not about being completely hands off like permissive parenting, but more about trusting my instincts and my child's cues within a framework of basic rules.
Precisely. It's about finding what feels right for your family and your child's individual temperament. What works for one family might not work for another. So, as we wrap up, it's clear that Type C parenting offers a refreshing perspective on raising children, emphasizing flexibility and trusting your child's journey. However, like any style, it's important to be mindful of potential pitfalls and strive for a balance that provides both freedom and guidance.
Ultimately, the goal is to raise happy, healthy, and well-adjusted children. Whether you identify as a Type C parent or lean towards another style, the most important thing is to be present, loving, and responsive to your child's needs.
This has been so helpful. I feel much more confident in understanding what Type C parenting is all about and how I might incorporate some of its principles.
Wonderful! We hope this discussion has given you some food for thought. Now, we want to hear from our viewers. Do you identify with Type C parenting? What are your thoughts on this relaxed approach? Share your experiences and insights in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe to the Three Koi Fishes channel for more discussions on all things parenting. We've also provided helpful links in the description below if you want to read more about this topic. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.